You shouldn't just turn your head if something's a hard barrier to entry, because that's usually means it's going to be a lot harder for people to start. When there's a lower barrier to entry, it means that the life cycle on some of these products may not be as long as if the barrier to entry were higher.
Hey, Millionaire University Nation. Welcome to the Millionaire University Podcast. I am your host, Brian Guerin, and today I am super stoked to be joined by my friend, Kris McCauley. He is a successful serial entrepreneur, but today he is joining us to talk specifically about one of his business ventures. He is big into drop shipping. He does it on a few different platforms, mainly TikTok, Walmart, and eBay. And guys, I'm super stoked that he's here. Let's jump right in and welcome to the classroom, Kris McCauley. Here we go. Kris, man, thanks for joining me on the show today. It's a pleasure to have you.
Hey, thank you so much for having me on, man. It's going to be a good one. Thank you.
Yeah, dude, I'm excited. And we met through one of our former guests on the show, Corey Ganem, who's a top tier Amazon wholesaler. I'm glad he made the connection because it sounds like you taught him a little bit about what he's doing. But today we're going to talk more specifically about the business you're in now called drop shipping. This is something where we were talking before we hopped on here, where it seems to be a very common business. And that's even a reason you said you may have held off on getting into it. But you have a really cool way you're going about it and 3 different platforms that you're doing it on with TikTok, Walmart, and eBay. So I'm really excited to dive in and have you tell our listeners and show our listeners how lucrative and how fun this type of business really can be.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's a lower barrier to entry. I still do Amazon wholesale, but this is one of those where you don't have to have $5,000 or $10,000 to get going. You can start with a few $100 if you wanted to. So
Awesome. I love it. Well, let's give our listeners a little bit of context on the origin story of Kris McCauley. So tell us about how you got started, how you got into entrepreneurship, and then eventually how you found your way into drop shipping.
yeah, for sure, man. It was around like 2010. I was going to college and I was just selling stuff on eBay, and I was working as a personal trainer and like an air flight attendant. And so then I bought these Lego sets from this garage sale. They were Harry Potter Lego sets. They sold that night for like $500. That was as much as I made in like a week and a half at both my jobs at the time in 2010. And so I told myself, like, okay, I think I need to do more of this. And so that's what I did up through college. So I paid for my school, most of my school, going to garage sales and flipping stuff on eBay. I get to the corporate world. I'm like, I think this accounting finance is what I went to school for. I'm there for a couple of years. I don't really like it. I go back to e-commerce. So I'm doing like the garage sale stuff. And then I found Amazon. So that's how I got into Amazon. I originally started with private label. So I'm doing a lot of things now that I'm successful in, but there's also a lot of things that I've not been successful in, actually way more. I started like private labeling, buying stuff from China. This is like 2017. I had some mediocre success, but the landscape was changing so fast that I kind of got into retail arbitrage, which I don't know if you know what that is, but you're going to retail stores and you're buying stuff in bulk. And in 2019, I was like going up and down the coast in California, where I'm at now, just buying particular products. There was this grocery chain that I was going really good with. And then I got into wholesale. And then it was in 2021, I started doing Facebook drop shipping. I was like, there were some guys that I interviewed on a podcast I was doing, and they were talking about it. They were also Amazon sellers. And I'm like, what do I have to lose here? Like, this sounds crazy, but I'll do it. So I was drop shipping on Facebook Marketplace, listing stuff from Amazon, and then people would buy it on Facebook for a markup. I still do that, but it's not as lucrative as now. So that kind of opened up my gateway into where I'm like, okay, maybe this drop shipping thing actually can work. And I was hiring someone through Upwork, and it was like down a rabbit hole. I get to talking to one of his clients. He's this guy from Pakistan who knows a realtor in North Carolina somewhere. It's this huge rabbit hole. And she's like, by the way, I'm doing eBay drop shipping and I'm doing like $6,000 or $7,000 a month. And I'm like, I need to get into this. So then I went back to hiring people and I'm like, I'm going to figure this out. So I started building teams. around this. I tried out maybe 10 or 15 people, and that's kind of where it all started. So that's where I'm at now. So eBay, now I drop ship on eBay, Walmart, and TikTok. And I've been doing those three platforms, drop shipping now for almost a year, coming up on a year. So kind of just going down some rabbit holes, man. But here we are. So
Yeah, such is the path for so many of us in entrepreneurship, right? Like one day you're doing something, you're thinking like, this is what I'm doing. It's going to be awesome. We're doing well. And then next day rolls around, you meet somebody who introduces you to somebody, and lo and behold, now you're in a whole new type of business.
yep, exactly. Yep.
Yeah, it keeps it fun and interesting, right?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. So let's talk about drop shipping in general. Give us a general overview of what is drop shipping for those of us who don't know. Hint, hint, myself included. I know a little bit about it, but not the full dead-on definition. And then, kind of start telling us what makes it easier to get into with that lower barrier of entry.
Yeah, so unlike Amazon wholesale or, let's wanting to launch a product from China like your own brand, where you have to upfront the cost of everything, right? With drop shipping, you can basically sell something, you can list something on a marketplace, and then if you have the source of that product, you don't fulfill that order until someone purchases that product. So it makes it nice because really it's a lot less capital intense than, let's say, Amazon wholesale. Now there are negatives to that too, right? Like whereas you have to split test a bunch of more products, but you're also not having to buy those products. Like on my eBay store, when I first launched my eBay store, I think we had 600 or 700 products listed. And that was just, I didn't buy those, but we wanted to kind of see, okay, what's going to sell? You're split testing a bunch of different stuff. And then once it sells, then you just fulfill the order. And then whatever's left over, you get to keep that profit. So hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, I think the example I always used when I think of drop shipping is if you have like a custom t-shirt store, whether it's on Etsy or wherever you're selling, but basically you sell these designs and they could be one-offs. Like a lot of places you got to buy 5 or 10 or 50, like for Imprint or Vistaprint, any of these places, right? But for drop shipping business, it's like you only want one shirt? Sweet. What size? What design? Boom, there you go. And you send it to the designer or the printer. They process it, they ship it, so you're completely hands off, right? Like that's the idea behind drop shipping is you don't touch the shipping. All you do is fulfill the order, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And you might not make as much if you were to buy those shirts in bulk and then sell them out in terms of, maybe your profit margins would be better, but it's so easy though, because you can try maybe a bunch of different designs. Maybe it's Halloween time and you want a bunch of different Halloween designs and you don't know which one's going to do the best. So now you can try 20 different designs and find which one works out the best and then double down on that. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And then you're not having to buy inventory of, 400 or 500 of these designs, which you don't even know are going to sell yet.
Exactly. Yeah, you nailed it.
So what type of products do you drop ship?
I mean, it ranges it's so varied across the platform and really the niche. On TikTok, it's a lot of women's products, like a lot of women's beauty products. On eBay, it's everything under the sun. Home and kitchen, gardening, outdoors, even some like bigger stuff, some like cabinets, like some cheap cabinets. Yeah, eBay's kind of all over the sun. And Walmart's kind of a mixture. Walmart's more niche down, but it's not as niche as TikTok. So still doing women's beauty products, some men's clothing, men's accessories. It really just split testing and then see what works. And then we double down on that. But it's not like I've got one product where it's doing 80% of the sales. It's very even keeled right now.
So what's the process for finding the places that actually manufacture or distribute the product that you're selling? What does that look like if you're just getting into the game?
I mean, there's multiple ways to do this. So for me, the way I did it was how I was finding Amazon suppliers, right? So when I first started, and what I found was not a lot of people, at least a lot of people who talk about drop shipping, they don't do it this way. So, I would go to trade show lists. I would look at the trade. I would see, okay, who's showing up at the trade show, and then start looking at the websites of those trade show suppliers, those companies that are showing up. And then I would just start reaching out for price lists and products. Like, what kind of products are you guys carrying? What kind of prices do you have? That's how I originally started doing it. And that's how you can drop ship on Amazon, but you don't have to do it that way to drop ship on TikTok, Walmart, or eBay. And so then what I started doing was using softwares. Like, one software that I use is called AutoDS. It's super cheap. It's like $30 a month. And using that paired with looking at best sellers, you can just type in shop into TikTok and you can see a lot of the best sellers that are already selling really well on TikTok shop. And then from there, inside of AutoDS or one of these similar softwares, you can see, you can start looking up like, okay, where can I get this? Alibaba, AliExpress. There's a bunch of other sites. You can actually pull products from Amazon.com. You can actually pull products with a Prime membership from Amazon.com, which is what I'm doing for some of the products as well. Now, it's not as good of margins as if I were to actually find these on AliExpress, but it's a good way to test the waters, if that makes sense.
Okay. And let's talk about TikTok for a second. So I
Yeah.
admittedly am not a TikTok user. I don't have a profile. I've never been on there. I know I'm a dinosaur, but how does it work? How does drop shipping on there work? Do you have a specific shop that you have on TikTok, like a shop profile? And then do you produce a bunch of content to sponsor your products, or do you run ads? How does that work for you?
You can do ads. You can definitely do ads. I don't do any ads right now. And maybe that's something I do towards the end of the year, but I'm not doing any ads. And I don't actually make any of the videos myself. I'm having other people do that. So the way it'll work is that you open up your own TikTok shop store, just like if you wanted to sell on Amazon, Walmart, or eBay. And what TikTok is doing is they're trying to compete with Amazon in the sense of people are making these videos of products and TikTok is feeding them, like, it keeps the customer on the app and then you can buy the product through the app. And so what we're doing is with TikTok, this is the only one that we're doing that's like this because it's the only one that has this option, but we will reach out to influencers and say, hey, look, we think you would be awesome fit for this product. We'll give you a 20% commission on anything you sell. All you have to do is make a video, and I may send them like five products, and they can make videos on all of them. They can make videos on some of them. And you're doing that across multiple influencers. And the beauty about this is that you're only paying once a sale happens, right? Like, because they're getting 20%, which is good. Like, I think TikTok, this is all done through TikTok, but I think you can go anywhere between 5 and 30% commission. And I do 20 because I think money's a good motivator. But the good thing from like a business person's like anyone listening that wants to do this is, unlike TikTok ads or any ads, Google ads, Facebook ads, whatever, you have to upfront that cost and you don't know if it's going to net you anything. You could spend thousands of dollars and get one sale. Whereas now you're kind of putting that on the influencer and then they're just, they're making videos and sometimes they get a few sales, sometimes they get none, and then sometimes they pop off. So that's how we're doing it right now on TikTok and it's working really good.
Okay, very interesting. How does it work then in comparison or contrast with Walmart or eBay? Are they? I mean, is it a completely different ballgame compared to drop shipping on TikTok?
Yeah, so like I mean if you think about it, right? Like, eBay or Walmart or really anywhere else doesn't have that social media component to it. So
Right.
it's not like we're emailing influencers and we're like, "Hey, promote this Walmart product." From there, the way it works on Walmart and eBay is we're going a bit wider because if you think about it on TikTok, we have to pay. It's going to cost maybe $100 to ship to get the item to the influencer and all this other stuff. Still not a lot of money, but there's still a little bit of upfront cost there. Whereas on eBay, we're still using the softwares. We're still using the softwares like AutoDS or I say others because there's so many out there that you can do. The one I use is AutoDS, and you can really just research and get an idea of what might work. I would not recommend doing this yourself. I would recommend trying to get someone else to do this because it would take so much time, but just listing all of these products, and then you kind of get to see what sells, what doesn't, because Walmart and eBay, they already have, it's like, an Amazon, they already have their own integrated system where they already have customers, they already have buyers, they're already pushing products to certain people, and you're kind of just riding that wave. And there is sponsored product. You can pay for advertising in both of those platforms either or two, and I'm not doing that either. So
we'll be back right after this. When you and I got married, our finances were all over the place.
But we came across Monarch Money, and that has been a game changer for us.
A big game changer.
Could you imagine if we had that from the beginning?
I'm the one who keeps track of the finances in our home, and this to me is just like, it is a sigh of relief.
Monarch is a top-rated, all-in-one personal finance app.
You get a comprehensive view of all your accounts, investments, transactions, and more. You can create custom budgets, you can track your progress toward financial goals, plus Monarch Money automates smart money moves to get you closer to your goals. And now get an extended 30-day free trial when you go to monarchmoney.com/MU.
The cool thing too is you can share your Monarch account with your partner, with your financial advisor, your accountant, or anyone else that's involved in your finances. You can also customize it to fit your needs. And there are no ads, and they never sell your data to third parties.
After trying Monarch for myself, I can understand why it's the top-rated personal finance app. And right now, listeners of this show will get an extended 30-day free trial when you go to monarchmoney.com/MU. That's monarchmoney.com/MU for your extended 30-day free trial.
When you're drop shipping on Walmart, how is that different from wholesaling, say, on Amazon?
So wholesale on Amazon, I'm physically buying the product, right? Like I go to my supplier and I'm like, hey, I'll wire you $20,000 for product X, Y, and Z. And then that product ships those into Walmart fulfillment center, right? Whereas drop shipping on Walmart, I'm not buying those products up front. Whereas, does that make sense? Like I'm not going to a supplier. I'm not saying, hey, here's my money up front. It's the same thing. I'm listing this that I know, and I know that the supplier has it. It's in stock. And then once it sells, I go to my supplier. And that's the thing is the suppliers are different, right? So some suppliers will do wholesale, but they won't do drop shipping. It doesn't make sense for them to ship out a $20, $30 product. And so that's where it comes down to, like, you have to have the network, you have to have the supply chain and kind of go from there. Or we're also, cross listing on Amazon too. And all, there's multiple ways to get products on these platforms.
Okay. And does Walmart care whether or not you're wholesaling or drop shipping? Because I haven't bought anything on Walmart.com in a long time, but I don't know if they have if they're like Amazon with Prime, or if there's, the benefits versus FBA versus FBM. Does Walmart come into play with that?
Yeah. So Walmart does have their own, it's Walmart fulfilled system. It's fulfilled by Walmart, like FWS. It's not as advanced as Amazon. And so what you want to do is, let's say if you're shipping from an authorized supplier, it's fine. But the problem here is, and let me think of an example where, like, Amazon's a big one, or if you've ever bought from Target before, how you get, like, Target comes in their own Target box, right? And so you could see the problem from Walmart's perspective, where if you're drop shipping from, I'm just using this example, like Target or Amazon, and all these Walmart customers are getting Amazon boxes, that's where the issue is. And that is definitely not allowed. So if for whatever reason, if you were to find a product, let's say you did find a really good product from another retailer on Amazon, that would be an instance where you would want to buy it first, and maybe you just start up with 10 units, and you can either ship those units to you, and you can either fulfill those yourself, or what I recommend doing is finding a 3PL, so like a warehouse that would handle that for you, and then going that route, which I have done that before. It's just I'm not doing that with like I am with Amazon wholesale, where we're talking, tens of thousands of dollars. It might be like $100 or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when it comes to, and I'm recalling back to our episode with Corey, looking at the type of pricing levels for the things that you want to drop ship, do you have any advice on, is it better to drop ship the more expensive things or higher end, or is it more advantageous to do higher volume, lower price, mix of both? What do you think?
I do a mix of both, really, because it's to hedge the risk. Because in drop shipping, it's really nice to do a higher ticket product because the gross profit on that is going to be higher. But the thing is, though, is that with the return, the fees are also higher. And you also have to keep in mind, too, is that customers are more likely, I forget the price, it's somewhere between like $60 and $70 and higher, where the percentage of a customer returning that, it almost doubles or something. I forget the exact number, but it's so there is just, the more expensive, the more expectation, right? Whereas if it's just a $20 product, okay, maybe you're only making $3 or $4, $2 or whatever profit. But I mean, if you have a few of those products and you're moving 10 units a day on each one, I mean, that's $60 a day. That's $1,800 profit a month, So I like to hedge it, and then I like to space it out. But I mean, there have been times where I see a high product, like a higher priced item, and then I will go wide in that niche. So like I'm like, oh, okay, this $200 fishing reel is doing great. So maybe we do, there's some different variations. So maybe we try some more variations of that $200 fishing reel, if that makes sense.
Okay.
That's how I'm doing it right now.
And you're using AutoDS to help you sift through the types of products that actually bring in profitability, right?
Yeah. Yep. So you can use that to help. I mean, it has so many features on it. I bet I'm using it for like 20% of everything it can do, but it can help with, you know how these tools go. Like there's so many features on them, but it helps with, just listing quicker. It helps with finding the products. It can even help you find suppliers if you wanted to actually get some of these wholesale, which I've looked into doing. And so, that's the one that I'm using that I really, really like.
Wow. Okay. Very cool.
Yeah.
And it sounds like this business would be very attractive for its semi-passivity or maybe being a almost totally passive type of business. What does it look like first getting into it? I imagine there's a bit of a learning curve. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, but once you're up and running, kind of like you are, Kris, how passive is this type of business?
It goes with anything, right? Like you can make anything as hard as possible, or you can automate anything. Like I think anyone can, it can go either way. I always gravitate towards when I get into something, it's like, how can I automate this? That's immediately where my brain goes. And that's why I started helping people automate this. I helped people automate it. So you don't even have to go out and build the team. Storeautomation.org. There's no upfront cost. It's completely full right now because I have no startup cost, but I just, take a percentage of the profit. But because I have the teams already built. But if you wanted to go do this yourself, I mean, it's really just all you need is like one or two guys to really help you out. And then from there, between one or two people, like overseas, like hiring them overseas, you should be able to have no problem doing this. And I would recommend starting with one platform at a time. So don't try to do all three if you're doing this on your own. Like pick one. And I think TikTok and Walmart are the most lucrative. I think selling on Walmart right now is like selling on Amazon in 2017. And I think TikTok is still wide open. TikTok has only been doing this, as I was telling you before, for about a year. So it's still really new. Like you know how it goes when there's a first mover advantage. We're still in that. Like it's still new and there's a lot of opportunity here to grow. So I would pick one of those two to start.
I love it. You're the master automator. That's clear now. What exactly were your first moves to automate this drop shipping business? And I imagine a lot of it was learned from automating some of your previous businesses, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Like, how did you find these people, and did you have systems built? Did they come with the knowledge of the systems? What did that look like?
Yeah, so this one I did a little bit different than my Amazon business, where when I started on Amazon in 2017, I had to learn everything on my own. And then I would go out and I would teach the people. Like I had the training program. I'm like, here, you're going to go through this 12 hours of training, and then we're going to do it that way in-house. This time it was more of a collaborative effort. So it was me learning, and then I was thinking, okay, because there's time and then there's money. I'm like, now I have a little bit more money, and so now what I can do is I can learn it too, and then I can also pay for, or maybe I can find someone that knows a little bit more that's been doing this and then pay them. And so just by hitting sites like Fiverr and Upwork, and Fiverr, you have to do some digging. You have to do digging on Upwork too, but just really finding people, that might have been doing this for like years, like it, not necessarily TikTok, but just drop shipping in general, which I still, I've only been doing it a couple of years at this point. And so by doing that, it really expedited it. And then, like you said, there is business. Like in business, you are building up this foundation, this cumulative skill that you can take and transfer it over to really anything else, which is awesome.
So how many people work with you on the drop shipping side of the business?
Like employees, I have 3 people. So I've got 3 people, and then there's myself. And then in terms of stores, we have 70 people we manage, and we're like full to the brim. I got to get more people. That's on my to-do list today. It's like,
Yeah.
we're filled up. So
Wow.
yeah, it's awesome. It's so great to see how much opportunities out here.
And they handle just about every aspect of the drop shipping business.
Everything aside from like the store creation, like I can't make someone's store for them, but
Hmm.
other than that, everything, customer, finding the products, dealing with all the stuff like listing the products, fulfilling the item, you name it. Yep.
That's awesome. That's a little homage to the power of building powerful teams, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, let's talk some numbers in this drop shipping business here. So, what's the earning potential? What do the margins look like? What are your profitability goals? If you're willing to share, let's talk a little bit about those.
Yeah, for sure. So the ROI on the product, like on the spend, so not net ROI, but the actual return on investment is usually on average around 30%. So for every 10K I spend on product, I'm getting back 3K in profit. That's sometimes it's a little better, sometimes it's a little worse. And if you throw on a good credit card sign on bonus, it can be even more than that. And it's interesting because like when you start a store, unlike Amazon, but on eBay, TikTok, and Walmart, you can't just start guns a-blazing selling 20K a month. Like it's just, you have to work into it, because if you sell too quickly, too fast, it just kind of triggers red alert systems inside of these. I think these third party systems are doing this to prevent counterfeit and a lot of other issues that they've had internally, like a liability factor. So the first month is just, you're getting some sales under your belt. The second month starts picking up steam, and then by the third month you're really kind of rolling, you're rocking and rolling. As for my own personal stores, what I'm doing is I see them anywhere between $4,000 and $8,000 a month in profit. And it's a big range, but it all depends on the time of year. It depends on, like, one of the cons with drop shipping is that you just never know how long a product is going to last. Like when it comes to barriers to entry, you shouldn't just turn your head if something's a hard barrier to entry, because that's usually means it's going to be a lot harder for people to start. When there's a lower barrier to entry, it means that the life cycle on some of these products may not be as long as if the barrier to entry were higher. So that's why I'm like 4 to 8K. I know some guys that are doing more. I just don't know. I can't answer this yet if the higher profit is going to be worth it for like me managing the teams. Maybe I would have to hire like a manager or something. But yeah, I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at with it, man.
Yeah.
And if you do the math on that, so like let's say 4K a month profit per store, a 30% ROI, that would be 12K spend to get the 4K. So just for anyone out there who, and you guys probably already did that math, but just making it easy on you. So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as
yeah.
someone who sucks at math, I appreciate when you do
Hey,
that.
yeah.
So what else do you need to open a drop shipping business? Do you need a website? Is there any tech? I know you mentioned AutoDS. Do you need a partner in this business? What else could you possibly need to get one of these off the ground?
That's a great question, and it's a different answer for each. So eBay, it helps if you have an LLC. So, just go to like you can go to a state website, but I always like use an ink file or something, which is now busy.com, and they just take you basically pay like a fee for them to do it all for you. And then you can use that LLC to open up all your drop shipping stores. But you want to do that on eBay because you're immediately going to get higher selling limits if you open up as a business. So I wish someone would have told me that at first. So, and then for TikTok, the same thing, just same thing. Walmart, it gets a bit trickier. So Walmart is the hardest one to get a store signed up with. And with Walmart, you're going to need a website. And so that's the only one that you actually need a website. And Walmart wants to see, I think Walmart just was having some bad counterfeit issues with like Chinese sellers and some other stuff. And so they just made it a little bit tougher to get a store. But trust me, it's worth it. We're talking about barriers to entry again, like Walmart, it is so lucrative if you can get a store. So it is worth it. It's going to cost a couple hundred to get a retail store set up or like a website, but just think of it as just cost of doing business, and that can make you thousands of dollars a month. Like it's just once you get the account up and running.
Is this a website that is actually selling the products that you sell, or is this like purely an informational site so that Walmart execs can go and be like, okay, yeah, this guy is legit. He has an LLC. He has a website.
Basically, yeah, the latter. Yeah, because it's like, you're not going to necessarily know all the products that you're going to be selling ahead of time.
Right. And you're not going to sell them direct because you're drop shipping.
Exactly. And so Walmart wants to see that you have a website set up. Even Amazon doesn't do this. It's the only one where they just want to see. So whatever your business name is, just buy that domain and then make a website out of it, and you should be okay. And I've heard of people not getting an account without a website, but that was a few years ago. And, just now they're kind of migrating towards that.
Maybe this is not specific just to Walmart, but how many different suppliers at any given time do you work with? And does that make it more challenging, or do you only have a few and you're good to go?
There's a few that I work with often. And then there's 3 to 4 that I work with often. And then and by often, I mean every week. And then there's another handful where it might be every month. And then there's another handful where it's like, it might just be once a quarter thing. But to be clear, you only need one, and you don't even really, I mean, the way I did, it just worked out where I have suppliers. There's people that are drop shipping, as I mentioned, stuff from Amazon, not necessarily on Walmart, but on TikTok all the time. Like there's all the time people are drop shipping stuff to people. It's just an influencer made a video and they're like, hey, buy this from this TikTok shop. And the TikTok shop's getting it from Amazon. That just happened to a friend like a month or two ago. They asked me, they're like, why did this come from Amazon? And I'm like, oh, and they're like, we got it from TikTok. Oh yeah, because that's what happened. Like it's just the influencer these people probably sent out doing exactly what I'm doing. They're like, hey, just will you, make a video on this? And they crushed it. And then that's what happened. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. That's kind of crazy. And it's all drop shipped from there. That's perfect.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like I don't want to like intimidate people where it's saying like, hey, you have to have some crazy supplier or something like, just find something, get on these softwares like AutoDS and just find something
Yeah.
that might work, So
And just rock and roll with it.
yeah, just jump in.
So I'd ask about logistics, but the nature of drop shipping, there really isn't a lot of logistics. It's all automated, right? Is there anything that I'm not thinking of coming from outside of drop shipping that could logistically be a part of your business that needs attention or that occasionally needs tweaking?
I mean, from the product standpoint, we already touched on it where if you're drop shipping stuff on Walmart and it's not coming from an authorized supplier, you're
Yeah.
going to want to make sure that that stuff is in a 3PL and that 3PL, if you just Google Amazon 3PL, you can find a lot of these and they work on Walmart, and that these guys are cool with drop shipping because some of these 3PLs, they're like, hey, we're only going to touch you if you move 1,000 units a month, or we don't do drop shipping. So there's from the product side, there's that. From the back end, the only other thing that you want to make sure on is where you're drop shipping these products is that you actually that tracking can get uploaded within 7 days. Because if you don't get the tracking uploaded within 7 days, it could hurt the health of your store. Like your store could get shut down. So you want to make sure that really the stuff that you're buying is on hand or that can get shipped out in 7 days, and that the customers know that. And then if there are any customer messages, that's really easy to automate. That's super easy. It's really simple. Like anyone could, as long as you have a Wi-Fi connection, you can do this. Like you could be in Siberia in the tundra or something, but if you have Wi-Fi, this is possible to do. So
Yeah. And you touched on the customer service side of things for a second, which made me think of this question. What does the customer service look like? I mean, if your product's being sold through Walmart, does Walmart handle customer service on that? Or is there anything that comes direct to you?
not necessarily, no. So like it's still up to the person. So like on eBay, like if you have it's the same as if you have an eBay store, Walmart store, wherever. If people are, like, hey, I'm interested in this product, what are the dimensions of this? Like you're still going to have to be the one to answer that. There might be some services out there. Actually, I think there are that will automate that for you. I just have someone in house do it. And if for whatever reason a buyer just asks a ton of questions, I usually tell my team, I'm like, don't even respond to it. We don't need his sale. And usually the people that are asking the craziest questions from what I've seen are the ones that are the most difficult after buying
Hmm.
it. And
Yeah.
so I just tell them, I'm like, if they ask, if they start going down asking a bunch of crazy questions, I'm just like, just don't answer it.
Yeah.
But if you really wanted the sale, you'd have to do all that on your own.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah.
Okay. So, what are some of the pitfalls or the biggest mistakes that a new drop shipper could run into or make on their own?
I think the biggest mistake you could make or pitfall would just be, let's say you sign up for a software, AutoDS, yeah, you just start listing a bunch of stuff and you're like, and then nothing sells. And then you say, oh, this doesn't work because I listed 200 things and I didn't get any sales, and you're going to quit, and then you're just not going to do it. I would say that's the biggest one because that's the biggest one I ran into, where when I first started it, I was thinking, I'm like, is this actually going to work? But the fact that I got to talk to this lady that I didn't even know from North Carolina who ran these, like, she had no skin in the game. There was no reason for her to tell me, like, honestly, it actually did her a disservice telling me about this, because I was like, I'm just going to go out and do it. And so it was like, okay, I got to make this work. I can do this. So I think just going into it with that attitude, like, you're hearing it here, like, I'm not getting anything out of this. Just go do it. If I can do it, you can do it. I'm not special by any means. There's a lot of people way smarter. So yeah, I don't know. I think that's the biggest one that I think comes to mind. Yeah.
Okay. And are there any regular struggles that an owner of a dropshipping business will run into on a regular basis, or at least partially regular basis?
You know, like my biggest ones are just, I mean, really, it's just how can I find more profitable products? But you also have to keep in mind too, is, across all my stores, I'm doing at this rate, I'm going to finish between 60 and 80K a year, 80K this year. Whereas, some of these guys that are doing a million, they're going to have completely different answers, right? Whereas like I'm in that sweet spot. I was, telling you earlier how I'm okay with, like, this is so manageable for me. Like I'm putting in like few hours a week max. Like I hop on with my team, see what's going on, ask them if I need to do anything, and I'm good with that. Like I'm a simple guy. I've got other stuff going on. I got other businesses I'm focusing on, but maybe, if I were to double, triple, quadruple, I have a feeling I would have a completely different answers for you on that.
Okay. Awesome. Well, that kind of leads into my next question here. What are your goals or what are your aspirations for the drop shipping side of your entrepreneurial journey? Are you taking this thing to the moon, or is this more of a passive kind of side thing for you? What do you see yourself doing with this over the next 1 to 3 years?
Man, when I started Facebook drop shipping, it would have been, it would have been, yeah, November of 2021. So I remember when I started that, and it was super lucrative in the beginning. Like I was doing like 3 to 4K a month profit in my store. And I knew guys that were doing like 7 or 8K. It's definitely dialed back since then. And I remember thinking, I'm like, I don't know how long this is going to be here. Like usually markets evolve, like it's like a vacuum effect. Like if
Mm-hmm.
something's really good, the blue ocean, like it kind of fills up. And so I definitely want this to be in my income portfolio. And it's hard for me to not crank things up. Like when things are working, it's really hard for me to take my foot off the gas.
Yeah.
But in this sense, it's like, I guess I'm looking at this storeautomation.org thing by me helping other people. I get to leverage my skills, and then I also get to take a percentage of the stores as well. As that to me is kind of like my like longer term play. But man, I don't know how long it's going to last. Like it could last 10 more years, or it couldn't. Like TikTok, this has been going on a year, but that's even more motivation, I think, to just get in. Like, you be grateful for these opportunities, and there is no guarantee that they're going to be here tomorrow. Like, and I don't mean to say that to like scare anyone, but it's just nothing's guaranteed, and get in while the getting's good. Like that's, I don't know how else to say it. Yeah.
Go grab the bag while it's there, right?
Yeah, it's there. It's there right now. Like go get it. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly. Don't delay, take action and
Yep.
go get it, because
Yep.
there's a chunk for you out there if this is something that you want to do. And in entrepreneurship in general, it's there. You got to take the action, you got to get some help and take that action and go grab that bag.
Exactly. You got it, man.
Yeah, I love it. All right, well, I want to make sure we're landing the plane here soon, so I respect your time. But what's one piece of advice that you have for entrepreneurs in general? You're obviously been very experienced across many different mediums in the entrepreneurship realm. So if you had one piece of advice you could distill down for our listeners, what would it be?
I would say consistency, positivity, and learn from your mistakes. Those are the three. Like, so consistency will beat talent any day. Always try to see the silver lining, and that'll help you in way more than outside of entrepreneurship. That's going to help you
Yeah.
way more than just that. And then just don't keep doing the same mistakes and learn. And that also will help you outside of just entrepreneurship too. But there's so many people I run into, and that's just how my brain works. And then I realize I'm like, oh, everyone doesn't operate this way. And as an entrepreneur, it's, you kind of have to, because if you don't learn from your mistakes, you're not going to make money, which means you're not going to eat, which means you're kind of screwed. So,
Right. Right.
it's
Yeah.
like I would say those are the three. Those, I mean, there's so many more, but those are my big three that I think, if I were to talk to myself 7 years ago when I quit my job, and been doing this full time since then. That's what I would say.
Yeah, man, you got to always be hunting. If you're the entrepreneur and you're pulling the ripcord, you got to always be hunting.
Yeah,
right?
always, always. Yeah, you gotta keep your eyes open, ears open, and just have the mindset of like, oh, hey, what is it gonna hurt to look into this? That's how I'm here. Like, oh, this guy's doing this. Like, I heard it from like one word on this one podcast, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm gonna look into this more. And then you just go down that rabbit hole and see what see where it takes you.
Yeah, and it might not be for you, or maybe it's your next great venture. You don't know until you
never
check
know.
it out.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Awesome, dude. Well, this has been fantastic. I appreciate you joining us and sharing all your knowledge about drop shipping. How can our listeners get a hold of you? How can they find you if they want to reach out and say what's up? What's the best way that they can do that?
Yeah, man. Just look me up on YouTube. That's a good way. Just Kris McCauley, Kris McCauley. And you'll find me, you'll find all my stuff, and I got some videos out there and whatever else you want. I'm sure it's there. So
yeah, dude. Awesome. Well, and a plug for you on that YouTube channel. I've been digesting a bunch of your videos on there and they're fantastic. So guys out there listening, go ahead and make sure you hit up Kris on his YouTube channel. He's got a lot of awesome material there. So Kris, again, thanks, man. This has been a pleasure. Had a lot of fun with you.
Hey, you too. Thank you so much for having me on. It was a blast. Thank you.
Anytime, brother. All righty. Round of applause for Kris McCauley, everybody. Guys, I think the biggest takeaway for me about this drop shipping opportunity that lies out there for anybody who wants to go grab it is that A, go get the bag, right? The opportunity is there. Learn from someone who's done it before and go get that bag. But second of all, Kris left us some valuable advice for entrepreneurs, and it really stuck out to me. He mentioned consistency, positivity, and the ability to learn from your mistakes. And he said that it applies to everything in entrepreneurship, but also in life. And he couldn't be more right. I mean, these are things that in my own business, I've learned that if you're going to do anything, you have to be consistent. When you fall off the radar, you fall off the radar and it's hard to get back on. You've got to stay positive, because if you're getting negative, you're taking a trip to negative town, it's going to be hard to be a happy person and be a good, contributing member of society if you're just ridden with negativity. So you always, always, always got to work to stay positive. And again, learning from your mistakes. In entrepreneurship, we fail forward, right? The only way you fail is if you quit. And if you don't quit, you only learn. So you're going to make a lot of mistakes in business. You're going to learn from these mistakes and you're going to improve upon these mistakes. So if you have these three qualities, if you consistently work on these, there you go. The quality number one, consistency, then you're going to be in the driver's seat for your entrepreneurial ventures as you grow and learn and continue to do great things in the business world. So folks, that's it for me today. I have two things that I want to ask you before we leave. First of all, if you enjoyed this episode, go ahead and grab the link to the show and send a text message to your best friend, maybe your business partner, someone in your family, close confidant. Let them have at this episode as well and let us know how they liked it. And second of all, if you haven't already, head over to millionaireuniversity.com/training and grab your free business course. This is perfect for somebody who is in the position of thinking about starting that first business, but maybe you haven't taken that first step yet. This is going to be this is going to be a free resource that puts you in the driver's seat to get you to taking those steps and making sure that action is a part of your daily grind. All right. So folks, that's it for me, Brian Guerin, signing off. I cannot wait to catch you on the next episode of the Millionaire University podcast. Go out there and crush it, everybody.